The management of this theater thanks you for your patronage.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Because we do have a listener who's all over. He's on our Facebook page a lot. Anthony Rios.
Yeah, this is the guy that emails us as well.
Oh, gotcha. Well, you know what? He's got top fan status on Facebook. We don't really have a huge Facebook presence. You know, I think between Twitter and Instagram, we're a little more on top of things there. But he immediately said, "I don't care what it is. I just can't wait to hear you talk about him." So kudos to you and thank you, Anthony.
Yes.
As always. So we can go into some listener requests.
Our listener requests have been
obscure at best.
Obscure and very damaging to Jeff. There was Horror Express. There was Tourist Trap. That was a listener request, if you recall.
Tourist Trap. You were so ready to go into that, though.
Yeah, and
I think you paid somebody to actually.
I was.
That.
I was. And the Sentinel was a listener request as well.
Why don't I not even remember that? The Sentinel?
That was the... You don't remember that?
I know. I'm drawing an utter blank.
That was the one with the Jeff Goldblum in a cameo, the fashion model that lives in the apartment.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. With the person in the window, the nun thing.
Yes.
Thanks for that.
You've repressed that one completely.
I did.
And I'm sorry to dredge that one back up.
Oh, well. So onwards and upwards. Here we are. Yet another week. I know it's by the time this drops, it'll be a little late, but happy belated Mother's Day to everyone out there.
Yeah, if there's any mothers.
Co-host who is once again not with us, but missed. I'm sure she did not want to spend her Mother's Day talking about Saturn 3.
No.
Stowaway. I don't even want to talk about Stowaway.
Yeah, I can probably count down from 10, 15 minutes about how long we're going to spend on Stowaway.
Yeah, we got what we paid for though, right? Because it was free.
I felt it was misrepresented. I did not get what I was expecting to get with Stowaway.
I think I was pleasantly surprised in some ways, but we'll get there. So anyways, welcome everybody who is now listening. Yes, we are deep into May. This May.
You know, it's funny that you say that because last week we covered Puffin Stuff.
Crazy.
And days later.
The next day. It was literally the next day. This is top of my news item. Go ahead.
Billy Hayes has passed this past week. Witchy Poo from Puffin Stuff. Now, sometimes when I listen back to our episodes, I have to kick myself. Sometimes I don't go into things as much as I thought that I would because, you know, when you're in the moment, you're recording, you forget to say certain things.
Yep.
And I don't think we gave Billy Hayes enough credit last week because...
No, I mean, we talked about the fact that she was all over as that character, but yeah, go ahead.
She just really cemented Puffin Stuff in my memory because I've said many times that Puffin Stuff is really high up there in terms of kid shows from my youth. Definitely the number one show that's for me that Sid and Marty Krofft did. I know a lot of Land of the Lost fans are out there, and a huge part of that is because of Witchy Poo. Now, you think it's a stupid kid show, you know, with people in costumes, but there's something very visceral and frightening about her performance to a kid, and it stuck with me all these years later. And watching the show with my son, you know, rediscovering it after decades of not seeing it, just seeing her on that broom in the opening credits, you know, and that's all it took was to bring those memories flooding back. And, you know, even though she's funny and it's a goofy show, And she's, in a lot of ways, the highlight of it. There's something to be said about how well she portrayed that character and how she balanced that line between scary and endearing. So that's what I wanted to say. I just really wanted to point out that she was a big part of me loving that show as much as I did.
And I did see after the fact that she's done a fair amount of like these conventions, and that this is somebody who I would have absolutely loved to have gone up to their table and been able to tell them that, this silly little throwaway show that you did 45 years ago is still, cemented in your subconscious. I did get a chance to meet with Corporal Agarn, Larry Storch, and I had very fond memories of watching F Troop with my grandfather. She will be missed. The only other news item I have, which is in the same vein, Tawny Katane, 59, died.
I saw that. Do we know what the cause was?
From what I read, has not been disclosed. I don't know if she had any underlying conditions, if it was COVID related, or if it was something else. Obviously, anybody who grew up in the 80s knows her as the chick that rolled around on the front of the car for 4 Whitesnake videos.
Yeah, Here I Go Again is the one that they played that a million times.
Oh yeah.
It's one of these things that's probably muscle memory. Even if you didn't like the song, like every beat of that video.
Yeah, well, it got me through puberty. But she was also in Bachelor Party.
Yes, she was the bride, right? She was the bride.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start this week off with 2 deaths.
Very sad. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
We can also talk about Marvel dropped a Phase 4 teaser, and we got a couple. Last week we talked about like these working titles for some of the movies, and now we have actual titles. I don't know if you want to take 2 minutes to talk about that.
But Black Panther being one of them, because we discussed this a few weeks ago.
Right. It is now, the official title is Wakanda Forever, which makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But if you read the description, it just talks more about getting to know the world of Wakanda and the characters that we've already met, but no mention of Black Panther or Chadwick Boseman. So who knows what we're getting.
A lot of the cast members, without revealing any plot points, they're saying that the movie is very reverent, or the script, I don't know if they've even started filming it yet, but the script is very reverent to Chadwick Boseman, almost like a tribute to his memory. So I don't know how they're gonna do it, how they're gonna address it.
Maybe the whole movie will be kind of in the vein of what we just saw with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is somebody coming to terms with T'Challa's death and learning that they must take the mantle. And maybe we'll have multiple Black Panthers. Who knows?
And plus, we've been saying that there is a Wakanda TV show in development with Disney Plus. Now, this is where I want to see what the day-to-day life is like.
Right.
What kind of health insurance do they have? What kind of jobs do they have?
Well, it's all vibranium. I mine vibranium. That's all I do.
It's like an elixir, vibranium. It heals all.
Snake oil. Captain Marvel 2 is officially being referred to as The Marvels. That is the title. I'm assuming we're bringing in Ms. Marvel, which is Kamala, the character that's getting her own Disney Plus show.
Right.
And Monica Rambeau.
Monica. Well, how can they not?
Exactly.
Right.
You don't go to the extent of creating that character in WandaVision. The problem with Captain Marvel is they made her way too powerful. And so I'm wondering if something happens. I mean, in the comic books, she loses her powers to Rogue. Avengers Annual number 10. Anyways, so maybe she just needs backup now because she's not as powerful as she used to be. I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing crap out there now. And the only one we did get confirmation that Guardians of the Galaxy is referred to as Volume 3.
Of course.
How can you not?
I would not expect anything different.
And I'm glad that the holiday special is a separate entity.
Yes.
We've talked about these phases, and not this episode, but we are going back in a 5 bucket episode soon, talking about the culmination of phase 1 with Avengers. But they are now officially branding this as phase 4. And we got this iconic little 4 at the end, which to me is definitely teasing Fantastic Four.
This is almost an expectation at this point.
Well, we know that they own the rights to these characters now, and go back to WandaVision where we were speculating that Reed Richards might show up. Pay attention because they could be dropping little tidbits throughout these movies leading into a Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and a lot of the speculation out there is whether or not Marvel can pull it off where so many others have failed. But you got to ask yourself, they've pulled off everything else with no issues thus far. They've Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
Thor, if you think about it, because they started with the reality, the stark reality
Oh, look at you.
of Iron Man.
Wow.
Right. So all tech based, all real world based, to an extent. And then bringing all these supernatural, otherworldly elements to it. This has not been an issue. So, the only reason people are saying that is just because of what's come before for Fantastic Four. But I don't think we have anything to worry about.
And you know what? When those movies dropped, we were happy to have them.
Yeah, we were.
We weren't like, oh, this is crap. Well, maybe the second one. once you make Galactus a giant cloud, you kind of lose me there.
I'm a fan of the Josh Trank Fantastic Four. I actually
You're
didn't
not
think that was
alone.
too bad.
You're not alone because it is based on the Ultimate Fantastic Four. So I think that they were very true to that. The only other thing I'll say, which is, unless we're going to just start talking Avengers, is that Stowaway was a missed opportunity to just create the origin story of the Fantastic Four.
Oh.
And on that note, news out.
Oh, actually, wait,
Yes.
before we news out,
you got something.
I
Okay.
did read something, the characters that we've seen thus far in Marvel's television branch, and I'm talking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., possibly Agent Carter, if you want to go back that far,
Ooh, yes. Please,
Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Again, it's been being said that it's not ruled out that you will see these characters again, but not exactly the way that you saw them on their TV shows. So we could see the same actors playing these characters, but they will be rebooted if they are to enter the MCU in a proper way.
That my son must have read that exact same article, because when I spoke to him the other day, he was halfway through Daredevil season 1 and he's never seen it, but he's like, first of all, this show is phenomenal. I'm like, oh, wait till you get season 2. I said, he goes, but they're bringing him into Spider-Man. He's going to be Spider-Man's lawyer. And I'm just like, do we know everything about Spider-Man at this point? No Way Home. It doesn't sound like it. It's going to, whatever.
But for fans of these shows, they were part of the MCU. That's what I don't understand. It's not like
they actually
they're
built those in. They make references to Stark. They make references to, other things going on in New York City with Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's a worry of alienating any people that might possibly not know these characters. I think that they're deft enough that they'd be able to bring them in without negating any story that's already out there. I don't know.
No, are they implying that it's going to be too much homework for somebody to be like, wait, who's that character? Oh yeah, go back and watch his three seasons. And they're like, I'm not doing that. Either you know who they are or you don't.
Again, this is the writer's job and not ours, but I'm sure that there's a way that you could introduce the character without making it necessary for somebody to go to watch the 3 seasons. If they want to, they're there, right? They can go do it.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and find out. The Spider-Man's going to be like 8 hours long. I honestly have no clue. And Andrew Garfield is now denying that he's had any contact or that he's been asked to be a part of any of this.
But didn't they learn anything from the previous Spider-Man 3? That only had 2 villains, and that was too much.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Like you said, all these major characters, what are they just going to be walk-ons? For 2 seconds each? That's all you have time for in a 2-hour movie.
Right. I don't need to see Spider-Man in multiverses yet. We're getting that with Doctor Strange. All right.
And hopefully we'll get another animated multiverse Spider-Man sooner or later.
I will tell you, next week we are covering the Mitchells versus the Machines, which is the same studio that created Into the Spider-Verse, and this looks just as impressive as what they did there. So
okay, I can't wait then.
So the studio is Sony stepping up their game.
And we didn't think that they were capable. I remember us having discussions when Mike was still on the show, when Sony and Disney had that spat and a bit of a separation for a little while. Yeah. So, and we were very hesitant that Sony could do it on their own, but hey, maybe we were wrong.
Prove us wrong, Sony. They have proven us wrong.
They have.
All right. Do we need to get into this? Do we need to sneak aboard this ship and
let's sneak aboard? Stowaway is what we're covering first.
Netflix. If you have Netflix, it is free. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, free to an extent because
you are paying.
You're paying for Netflix.
Service. All right.
Yeah.
Nothing's for free anymore. Tubi is still for free.
Tubi is for free.
if you want to sit through commercials.
You got to buy a TV, but yeah.
It's true. All right, fine. It doesn't just get zapped into your head.
No. We're not there yet.
That's PlayStation 8.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, just a chip. It gets implanted in your forehead.
Buy the Tubi chip.
Yeah, the Tubi chip.
But still wouldn't be free.
No, you'd cut the commercials. Yes, indeed. Joe Penna, who directed this. Do we know anything else that he's done? Are you
he
familiar
did a
with
movie called Arctic with Mads Mikkelsen.
Who is stuck in the Arctic?
I assume so.
Yes. I did read that the original story for that was that he was going to get stuck on Mars, and that was going to somehow tie in with this movie.
Really?
But then The Martian came out, and they had to reconfigure it. There's a lot of Martian DNA in this, by the way, and Gravity, by the way. Much better, superior movies. Sorry, tip my hand.
I saw a lot of similarities, maybe in tone, to Midnight Sky, George Clooney.
Yes, yeah. All right, so let's get into it. So basically, this is a 4-person play. We're immediately introduced to 3 characters, and I have to say, this opening sequence I was very impressed with. I don't know what the budget on this was, but it's a rocket launch, and you have Toni Collette, who plays the commander.
Yes.
And for 3/4 of the movie, I thought it was Frances McDormand. So I apologize to Mrs. Collette. We have David Kim, who is played by Daniel Day Kim. He is a biologist. And then Zoe Levinson, who is, man, I never know her name. What's her name?
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick. Who is
Kendrick. No plural.
No, she's not 2 of them.
Yeah.
She doesn't multiply. She doesn't multiply halfway through the show. Is she a doctor, a medic?
I got the impression that she was there to take care of the other 2. That she was a medic of some sort. Yes.
Well, she seemed very, very giddy to be a part of this 2-year mission going to Mars, which I guess we already have a colony there. They already shipped half their stuff to Mars. It's a 6-month trip to Mars. I guess they'll be there for a solid year, and then it's another 6 months back.
So it's 2 years out total.
It's a 2-year mission. In this opening sequence, it's just them in the command pod, the command capsule, and it's very intimate. The way it's shot, and I don't know if this is based on budget, but you really don't get any large exterior shots.
No, especially not in the opening, because it is, like you said, it's tight, it's in the capsule, it's on them the entire time. So you're hearing ground control. Hyperion is, they're taking the place of NASA here, this company called Hyperion. And it's tight close-ups of the astronauts in the capsule.
And I loved it. A very intimate introduction to these characters. And you immediately get a sense of each one of their personalities.
And it makes you not want to be an astronaut. The turbulence of the takeoff. Yes. I could just imagine the exhausted stagehands shaking the seats behind.
I was wondering, like, how much of that is like a gimbal, how much of that is played in camera.
Right.
But they sell it. You get the booster separation. The capsule that they're in separates a third time, and they're going to merge with this other vehicle. And but again, it's all told from the inside of the command capsule.
Now it actually made me uneasy because I am not a good flyer. I'm a very nervous flyer, and
you would not want to be on this.
That feeling that I get when the plane initially takes off, like
when my wife grips my hand to the point where I have indents in it for the next hour and a half. That. And so, and I got that feeling watching the beginning of Stowaway. Yeah. And even like the little tricks of, like, once they broke Earth's atmosphere, her necklace kind of floats up. It's a cheap trick, but it sells the point that they are now in weightless gravity. Right. But her sense of Anna Kendrick, her character, the sense of just her looking out the window and just being like, holy I'm in space. Colette at one point, because when they're taking off, there's a slight deviation in their trajectory. And she's got that finger on the button. She's ready to abort this thing. And then Command Central says, no, you're good, no problem. But immediately you know that there's an issue if the weight was off, because we know what the name of the movie is. It's Stowaway. Yeah. We know that there's somebody else on the ship. It's not a big super high reveal, but so they're on their way to Mars. So this is the mission, and the opening beats of the movie are all kind of introducing the characters.
And just like there, it's a very bizarre, like horror movie type scene because it is Toni Collette's character that discovers our stowaway. She's just in a part of the ship after their vessel is docked, and so what is this? A space station that's already out there?
So basically, this is referred to as a Mars cycler, and Buzz Aldrin kind of pioneered this idea, which is you use your ship, your rocket to get you out of Earth's atmosphere, but you now dock with this other ship, which operates on like this cylindrical gravity force. The thing is rotating, and we've seen it in Babylon 5 and a bunch of other TV shows now that utilize this idea of this artificial gravity where the ship is rotating and it propels you, whether it's using solar, who knows, I'm guessing. But yeah, once they dock onto this thing, their rocket only had enough fuel to get to this thing. And this doesn't really have a lot of fuel on it. And then it just kind of propels forward. And once they're going. Because once they get they're not, you can still see Earth outside their window. They're not that far away. And they're like, they find this guy and they're like, well, why don't we just take him back? And she's like, oh, sorry, we're already moving too fast forward. We can't turn around now. And I'm like, but it's right there. It's not like you're past Saturn. It's right there. So yeah, I'm gonna guess that they did a fair amount of research with the science behind this stuff. Some of it seems a little wonky. I would say that it's got to be pretty close to what real world.
Yeah, but I didn't question it. I didn't question that at all. I questioned the fact that Toni Collette's character is by herself and she notices a drop, and anybody that's worth their horror movie salt will know that this drop is blood. Right. So she looks up to see where this is coming from, and there's no stain on the scene. No. So I don't know how the blood got out of the panel that it was in.
I want to know how he got in there.
Yes.
This makes no sense.
I have no problem with any of the science stuff. I'm like, tell me whatever you want to and I'll believe it. But tell me that there's a guy that is unconscious, screwed into a panel.
And nobody knew he was missing.
Somebody had to actually close him in.
Yes. Yeah, that made no sense.
In order for him to be in there. And it's not like it's a huge panel. It's about the size of his body. Yeah. So it's like, oh, there's this guy that's somehow stuck up in the works. We got to launch. I'm just going to screw this in and hope nobody knows. Right.
Hey, has anybody seen Bob? Michael was his name, by the way.
Yeah, so how did he get in there? How did he render himself unconscious?
Yeah, and somehow damage the air circulator and all this other crap going on. Because we have artificial gravity in here. So it's not like he floated up in there and then the screws magically closed him in. This is question number one because it doesn't make any sense. So immediately you're on the edge going, there's more going on here. Yes. Is this somehow a sabotage? Is he purposely, because you find out pretty quickly, he has a sister back home,
and that he takes care of.
That he needs to take care of, and so you keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. That all right, this was planned. This guy is looking to sabotage this mission for whatever reason. What are his motivations?
And that's what you get from looking at the description of what this movie is about on Netflix. It says, astronauts find a stowaway that threatens their life. So you're thinking that this is going to be some kind of a conflict between them. And this goes into what you're saying, that he's there on purpose to sabotage them. But that's not the case. As the movie
not
unfurls.
At all. He just happens to be a super nice guy, which makes the conundrum even more so that they don't know what to do with him because he's now eating up their oxygen. When you go for a 2-year mission, you're not taking extra food along. So now you have to feed this guy, you have to house him, you have to let him breathe, and he'll have to use the pooper at some point for his crowd.
And what's funny is that I think my wife watched this with me, and she probably thought the same thing that I was, that it was going to be some kind of a horror movie, and that's why we paired it with Saturn 3, which we know is a sci-fi horror movie along sort of the same lines. But when the movie started, you know how Netflix and anything, any streaming service now gives you what the rating is, and it tells you up in the left-hand corner of your screen what you're in for in terms of violence or nudity or. Mm-hmm. So all that came up at the beginning was language, and she turns to me, just language, no violence.
You'll be violent by the end of it.
So we were in store for like a suspenseful kind of a horror movie, and
Well,
once you see that, you realize, okay, we're not in for much here.
Well, I will say it is suspenseful initially because you keep waiting for something else to happen. You keep waiting to find out that this guy is not who he is, and that so Toni Collette's character, he falls on her and breaks her arm. So now she basically, so the rest of the movie, she's just talking with Hyperion, which I think is very interesting because you never hear the other end of the communications. All you hear, even when they were doing the little press conference on the video early on, like you only hear their side of the conversation. You never hear what Hyperion is saying after that initial launch sequence. So you're not hearing the questions they're asking when she's talking to them. They're like, listen, we got this guy on board. We need to figure out a rational way to deal with this. And you never really hear their other side, which I thought was an interesting choice.
I was hoping after the first few scenes that the subtitles may correct that, but no.
No,
all it
so
said
even in the
was
subtitle, yeah.
you just knew that the guy that she was talking to, his name was Jim, and all it said was Jim speaks indistinctly every time that he talked.
Jim probably should lose his job then. Come again, Jim?
And she never questions how he got there. All she asks Hyperion is, who's on my ship?
Right.
He's an engineer that's somehow was in the wrong place
Right.
at the very wrong time.
So Zoe cleans him up, fixes him up. He's got a gash on his side. But when he comes to, he freaks out because obviously he's now on a spaceship leaving Earth.
But he offers no explanation as to how he got inside the panel in the ceiling.
No, we're just
screwed
supposed
in.
to kind of, all right, he's there now, so now we got to deal with it. But he's like, I can do whatever. I can do grunt work. And it's like, no, it's like I said, it's the lifeboat scenario, right? It's like that age-old lifeboat dilemma, which is, your lifeboat can only hold so many people and you got people floating in the water. Do you take them on and risk everyone else that's safely in the lifeboat? Because he's on ship now. But the air purifier has been damaged. There are only X amount of oxygen. The commander makes this decision that she's telling David he must take his algae and reformulate that to somehow grow oxygen, which is, I guess, what his job was going to be when he got to Mars. And he was very reluctant because he's like, this is years of my work.
But, it's a life or death situation.
And it doesn't work.
So then they're faced with the issue of having to tell the character of Michael, who it's not easy because, as you said, he's a super nice guy.
He's like
right?
a super nice guy, right? And you can see that Zoe's building a relationship with him or whatever. She's kind of warming up, and it's an existential question. Are we just going to kill this guy? You're just going to walk him out the airlock, to save our own lives?
They give themselves a 10-day window for Hyperion to figure something out.
Which they don't.
Don't. But in the meantime, the commander forbids the other two to tell Michael anything about this situation that they're in because, obviously you don't want them to freak out.
Well, they're going to panic and take even more oxygen.
Yeah. But David can't help himself. David comes up with a lethal EpiPen and gives Michael the breakdown of what's wrong and gives it to him. You're just going to go to sleep if you inject yourself with this. A nice quiet out. So now Michael is obviously conflicted about what he should do here. And then Zoe approaches him and sees this EpiPen and is not having any of it. So she wants to exhaust all possibility to save his life. And this is what kind of enters into the climax of the movie, which is the biggest set piece that the movie has to offer.
Yeah, we get an outside environment, which I want to say that the interior of the ship is very nicely done. It's very impressive, and you can actually go and visit this set in Bavaria, I think, as part of some movie tour. So I don't know if it's been used in other if it was built specifically for this movie or if it was a repurposed, but it's pretty impressive. The hallways and whatever, and the galleys and the quarters.
Yeah, and there's a number of shots that are that don't have cuts to them, where you're following the characters go through one room to the next. So you do get a sense of your surroundings, where, okay, this room is adjacent to this room. Okay, this room is like 3/4 away from where Daniel Day Kim's lab is. So it's not kind of like the Nostromo, where it's still like a sealed environment, but you don't really get a sense of how everything is connected to each other. Yeah. This you do because you follow the characters from room to room, and it's not that big. So
yeah. And again, like I said, you don't get a lot of exterior shots. So it's a very intimate, like you realize just how close quarters this environment is. You talk about the build up to the finale. This is where this whole thing falls apart for me. You know, I was kind of in
it didn't already fall apart when he came out of the panel in the ceiling.
Well, yeah, but again, you kept waiting for something else to happen, for something else, for some other reveal, and it doesn't happen. Like you said, now all of a sudden we're full on Martian, and we're going to science the shit out of this, and half his algae die. So now he's got to sacrifice the rest of them in hopes of creating oxygen, and that's what leads to this. They realize that the top portion of the ship may still have oxygen in it, so they have to do this tether walk.
Yes, because the ship, as we were saying, the ship docks with this, this capsule station that's going to propel them to Mars. And in order to create the artificial gravity, there's like a counterweight where the hull that had all the fuel that got them to the ship is connected by tethers and is causing the ship. It's like a counterweight that's causing the whole thing to spin to create the gravity.
And there's a couple nice, again, a couple really nice shots of almost like the Death Star window. It looks like a TIE fighter window, and you see Earth, and obviously they're staying still, but you see the Earth rotating back and forth, and every now and again it's getting a little bit farther away, a little bit farther away. But again, without really showing the exterior of the ship. There were some nice moments to look at. I don't think this had any tension for me whatsoever.
The whole them snaking their way up these
except
metal
for the fact
cables.
to show that it was a lot of hard work. Like, you're thinking, like, they have to work past the artificial gravity, I'm guessing, is why they have to do those the manual pump and shift little crawl things, and then once they got past a certain point, then they could just take the rope and pull themselves along until they got to the other end.
But yeah, so the whole point is they get to the hull where the fuel was, and that's where they've got more oxygen. So they bring empty tanks to fill them with oxygen to bring them back to the main ship. So then they'll have enough for 4 people, and they only bring 2 tanks, just enough what they would need.
Come on,
they're in there and they fill 1 tank. And then they get word, nope, there's a solar storm coming. You've got to get back here now. So they have no time to fill the second tank. So now they only have...
Solar storms in space just pop up.
They just pop up.
We can't see that like millions of miles away.
Right. So they've got to quickly get back. They leave the empty tank in the hull in the hull where they had to get to. They have to snake their way back all the way down to the main ship. And they make it all the way down. And Zoe, who has the tank full of oxygen, drops it, and it goes floating off into space. So this entire suspenseful sequence that you just sat through for what feels like 20 minutes is pointless. Wasted.
Yep.
So they go back inside, and the solar storm hits them, and they can't be out in it because it's like a radiation storm. So it would mean death for anybody that was outside the ship.
Or you turn into a giant rock creature or somebody who can stretch really long.
Oh yes, correct. So now they're stuck because there's no other way that they could have gotten oxygen. And now they only have oxygen for 2
tanks, but no tanks.
Their only recourse is for one of the 4 to sacrifice themselves for the other 3. To get that last tank of oxygen that they've left all the way at the end of their long tether journey to bring it back. Michael, he volunteers immediately because he's the one that's gotten them into this mess. But he's
okay. All right.
but he's pretty inept. I don't know if he was playing that up or not. But
I'll go, but I don't know
what I'm doing here.
Don't be there.
So he can't go. The commander can't go because she's the one that pilots the ship. Zoe ends up volunteering. No, but they don't have a doctor now that she's going to kill herself to do this.
He's still got that gaping wound on the side of it. That could be infected at any moment. He can't even slap algae on it because the algae's all dead.
Right. But, she is the one that, was Butterfingers and dropped the tank. So she figures she's got to make good.
It's your fault.
So she makes it in the middle of the solar storm, even though it's certain death to be out there. Now, couldn't they have waited until the storm was done?
Yeah, they did give themselves a window, right? Let's just wait this out.
Because, even though we do realize that, she gets the tank and there's still going to be one person that is going to be dead because they don't have their oxygen. But I would think that it's a very unpleasant way to go, like space, being exposed to space radiation, very slow and painful death.
Yeah, she was falling apart a la Spock and
But not before she makes it all the way up there and all the way back. So she doesn't actually start to have lesions and starts to fall apart until she makes it back. Now, how do they get the tank? Isn't it
That's a
radiator?
good question, right? Because they have to open the door. To get
Yeah.
it. I don't know. Did they show it? I don't even know. I was gone at this point.
No, they didn't show it.
I'm
They
like,
just
oh,
they're all looking at her outside the window. She makes it back, and she's sitting on the edge of the spaceship, looking out into the stars. And
just
then
the way that we
she
were
dies.
introduced to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would she stay on there?
All the way to Mars, I would assume so.
Yeah. Every day they look out and see her. Imagine the trip now. That's going to be awkward every day.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that girl who sacrificed her life for you? Idiot. And now, but Daniel Day Kim's character's got nothing to do once he gets to Mars.
Yeah, he doesn't.
No. I like the fact that it didn't, like, there was never a quiet moment. The score just kept going through this whole thing. And I think that was just to kind of just keep the momentum going. Wasn't Dr. Smith a Stowaway as well?
Yes.
And Russell from Up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? I would have preferred Dr. Smith than this guy.
I can just picture him saying, "I said lunch, not launch," before he gets screwed into the panel.
I have absolutely nothing else to add to this. It's a great cast. And again,
Yes, it is.
It's four characters. You could do this on stage, except for the spacewalk, maybe. I think they built it up to nothing.
It did not deliver what I thought it was going to deliver.
I
was
you thought
disappointed.
It was gonna be a horror movie.
Yeah, I did. I
mean, I thought it was pretty to look at. Which at this point, I think every week I say that. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt.
You can't get around. How did he get in that damn panel?
I know.
How?
It's so stupid. He should have just been locked in a closet. The cat knocked it over. The broom locked me in.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with that if he just opened the closet door and he fell out. But no.
So I was looking around because I was trying to find any little tidbit about this, and the only thing I came across, which I thought was funny, was Daniel Day Kim was on one of these late night talk shows, and he was just talking about the time that he was still on Lost, and the entire cast had to fly from Hawaii to LA for a press junket. And the people on board the plane, when all these characters got on, freaked out. I got nothing to add.
How many buckets would we give this?
2.5.
I'd go two buckets.
Missed opportunity. Just makes Saturn 3 look like a masterpiece.
I'm not sure about that. Let's get into it. Let's go to the concession stand, and we'll come right back and discuss Saturn 3.
I hope they have some algae burgers.
It is our pleasure to welcome you to Skyline. For the information of those who are attending a drive-in theater for the first time, the following hints will make you feel at home and add to your enjoyment. Firstly, if you've not already done so, remove the speaker from its stand and place it within the car. Secondly, adjust the volume control to right for loud, left for soft. For mobile snack bar service, flick down switch on right. We must issue this warning. No attempt should be made to disconnect the speaker. To do so, we'll immediately register on a red light on our control panel. The Skyline caters for every member of the family. Let the children enjoy themselves in the playground. And everybody will want to visit the snack bar, where appetizing food and drinks are always available. And the barbecue for that luscious, juicy steak. One final word. When the performance ends, and before moving, replace the speaker on its stand. You then drive forward, and you move to the right. You must never reverse out of your position. Thank you, everyone. We trust you have a pleasant evening.
Okay, we're back. Saturn 3 is on the docket here.
Yes. 1980.
1980.
And neither one of us have seen this.
No.
Although you seem to know a lot about it.
I do, because this was very well covered in all of our favorite movie magazines back in the day.
Yeah, that robot. This robot is the stuff of nightmares.
The image of the robot is very iconic. Now, this came out in February of 1980, and they claim up and down, even though there's a lot of stylistic similarities between this and Alien. I'm thinking about the robot specifically. You know, it's very large, it's like an 8-foot tall thing, and it's, got an exposed rib cage. And so it looks very xenomorph-esque, right? But everybody swears up and down that this was in the works well before, anybody saw Alien that was working on this movie. So could be coincidence. Maybe
it would have had to have been a rush though, because Alien came out 79, so you're probably filming 77, 78, probably 78.
Yeah.
It didn't even take that long anymore. But yeah, this, like you said, this robot is very iconic, and it's disconcerting because it doesn't have a head. It's this big hulking mass with all these tubes, and there's this great sequence when he's building it, and you see all the liquids going through the tubing and whatnot, but it just has like this little tiny armature head with two little headlights. That just completely throws you off, because like you see this giant monster, you want a giant robot head, and it doesn't have one.
Yeah, it doesn't have one.
It's very kind of bizarre. But this thing was all over. I remember probably the back of comic books. I mentioned last week the shot of it holding Farrah Fawcett up, and I was thinking that was the movie poster. It's not. It does take place in the movie, so it must have been a still, and I probably saw it in Fantastic Films. I know for a fact that this robot was on the cover probably more than once.
Yeah, so that's why I'm so familiar with this without having seen it, because reading all these articles about it as a kid. So I knew what the story was, and this is rated R. So it never played during a time where I could have seen it. Now, I wasn't as obsessed with this film as I was Alien, because Alien, it was like a seeking out of anything I could get my hands on. This was just another movie in the background that happened to be in my magazines that I read about, but it never struck me in a way that Alien did. It never made me want to go out and find it and watch it.
No, I think the robot turned me off. I think the robot was enough for me to be like, I'm not comfortable with this thing. I don't want to watch it at all. I honestly do not want to watch it.
Because it was kind of sold as a hybrid horror sci-fi movie in the same vein.
And it has its moments. It has its moments, but I will tell you, the first 15 minutes, I was so giddy at the cheesy special effects and the over the top, like how many movies ripped off the opening Star Destroyer from Star Wars? Because this is just a direct, let's just take a giant ship that looks like a crab and fly it directly over frame.
And it is so awkward looking, this ship.
And it goes forever. No wonder why Spaceballs spoofed it.
I know. And it's not like a thing of beauty like the Star Destroyer is.
No. It's like office buildings for like the longest time.
But to be fair, as much as we love Alien kind of does the same thing.
Yes, exactly.
All these movies were doing.
So I'm wondering, go back and let's do a compilation of all the times. I'm sure Battle Beyond the Stars probably did the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but we get a nice, like the opening, there's a really nice title design, which is not used in any of the promotions or the posters. It's very missed. I don't understand that, where your title optics are completely different than what you get on a movie poster or any kind of promotional.
But again, I think if anything, that this was probably inspired by Alien, because it's kind of like a slow dissolve into the title, just the same way that Alien did it.
But we get these black stormtroopers, for lack of a better term, silhouettes running around, and the logo for this place looks like the Buena Vista logo from Disney. It's this brightly colored thing, and there's some really wonky stuff going on where people, they're flipping, so it looks like people are running upside down, people are running forward. So to me, it was like a Logan's Run thing going on. They're all carrying briefcases. They have like these Death Star helmets, the droid helmets that are obviously made out of cheap plastic.
You're in a space station or some kind of a spaceport or airport, so there's all these different voices and announcements going on, so you're really unsure of what setting that you're in. Yeah, and Captain James is nowhere to be found. Numerous times, Captain James to the docking bay. Captain James, where the hell are you? We don't know, but we do eventually meet him.
Is that who?
That's the guy in the locker room. Yeah. So
that right there, I actually paused it when this happened, because I'm just like, that just happened.
Okay, so here we go. Now, there are a lot of close-up shots of characters in spacesuits with helmets on. So it's as if that the director is trying to give you a sense of what they're feeling through their space helmets that shows no emotion whatsoever. There are so many unnecessary close-ups, and the camera holds, and the person doesn't move in their space helmet. I'm like, what are they trying to convey here?
All right, can we stop for 1 second and talk about the director? Because this blew my mind.
Stanley Donen.
which I didn't recognize that name, but you'll know pretty much every movie this guy's ever directed. Singing in the Rain.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
Pajama Game.
Funny Face.
Blame It on Rio.
Charade.
Damn Yankees. This guy's been around forever.
And he had never ever directed a sci-fi movie before this.
Or since. Do you want to know what else he directed? He directed Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling video.
Oh.
That's all you got to say. But Singing in the Rain is so iconic. It's so yeah, this is really like, you see 80s cheese right up front. And I'm just like, we're curled up on the couch. It's Saturday. It's raining out. And I am just in my glory. I am like, how did it take this long for me to watch this stupid movie?
And I will say, I watched this on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
This was like a 4K restoration. The picture looked beautiful.
Yeah. I started watching it on Tubi, and then I realized it's on Prime, and I'm like, why am I going to sit through commercials? And I'm sure on Tubi, it's probably transferred directly from DVD or something. It's very nice and Prime for a 1980s movie that was probably shot on film.
So we get the sense now, you kind of work it out that you are in some kind of a spaceport. And so now all of a sudden you're in a locker room, and this character of Captain James is in there. Maybe he's late. Maybe he was with his space prostitute the night before. That's why they were looking for him. So he's running to his locker, and so he runs into Captain Benson in the locker room. I don't know how he knows who this is.
Exactly. The black initially, I'm like, I'm beginning to think that's not Benson.
But it is Benson. Benson has some serious issues. Benson, I think he maybe takes something that James says the wrong way, because Benson is on his way to Saturn III.
No, I thought Captain James was on his way.
I thought Benson was on his way to Saturn III.
No, because you hear the announcer calling Captain James to the launch bay, and you see this little bug-like shuttle ship that they're preparing. So Captain James is the character that is set to go to Saturn III.
But James says to Benson that I wouldn't want to go to Saturn III, because he says to Benson, you're on your way to Saturn III. I wouldn't want to go there. It's only 2 people there.
I completely misunderstood. But he kills James, like explodes him, like opens up some airlock in the locker room.
Apparently this locker room has direct access to space. All you have to do is hit a button.
You just put your seatbelt on and press the button.
And not only does he eject him from the airlock, there's like these wires that are in front of the airlock.
It's like insult to injury. Not only are you going to get blown into space, but you're going to be eviscerated.
You're going to be eviscerated like Itchy and Scratchy style from The Simpsons.
It was so cool. It was scanners. He explodes. But then Benson steals some canister that was in James's locker.
So maybe we could go, and after we record this, we can actually go, because now I'm curious. Was it Benson that was meant to go to Saturn III, or was it James?
Now that you mentioned that line of dialogue, though, I think you're right. So that completely, the entire movie, and I've written this numerous times in my notes, what exactly was Benson's plan? It's not obvious why he's doing
wasn't
this.
To me. I had to read some background to the plot in order to figure out why he was there.
I don't need to do that. I shouldn't have to do that. I
shouldn't have to do that either, but I did. So I kind of know what his mission is on Saturn III. But the thing is we haven't even talked about who's on Saturn III yet.
No, do we care who's on Saturn III?
So there's these stations all around the galaxy, right? Because we get the impression, and we don't even get this from the movie, and I had to read this later, that Earth is in like kind of a Wall-E dilemma, where it's overpopulated and there's not enough food. There's not enough resources. So these stations across the galaxy are doing research, much like that we would have done in Stowaway on Mars.
Yeah.
And so Saturn III is like a food growing kind of an outpost. And it's only run by these 2 people, Kirk Douglas.
It's a giant facility run by Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett. And they are doing a damn bad job, because they never once look like they're really making food. They're just lasering into rocks and screwing. Yeah,
that's basically it, in various states of undress.
Yeah, why even bother wearing clothes?
Yeah, I know. Plus, we've got the egregious age difference factor going on here as well. But they do play into that. It's not like from reading some background on the movie, Kirk Douglas is already he looks like he's probably in his late 50s, early 60s in this.
She was what? 23.
Probably in her late 20s, I would give her, maybe early 30s at this point. So they're in this relationship, but Kirk Douglas, and this plays into the plot where he's self-conscious about his age. And the other character of Harvey Keitel, Benson, comes
Harvey
in and calls him on it.
In a man bun.
So we have these two in a relationship, and they're growing food on Saturn III. And Harvey Keitel's mission as Benson is to go up there, assemble this robot who he calls Hector, to take over for one of these two, to make them more efficient. So one of them is going to be retiring upon his arrival there.
Gee, I wonder which one.
Kirk Douglas actually says that it's time for him to abort, meaning retire. And he's upset because he's going to be leaving Farrah Fawcett, right?
But if this is the mission, then because they stay straight out that they've been there for 3 years and they're behind schedule. So there's got to be some corporate decision. All right, we need to get one of these idiots out of there. Because you watch them, and again, all they do is screw around and, take showers together and then copulate. And it's like, you're not getting any work done. So we got to get rid of one of you. Why is this some top secret mission? He's got to kill the other guy to steal the brain for the robot. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. Did you know that Keitel's voice is dubbed?
Totally is dubbed. And because Keitel apparently wanted nothing more to do with this after he filmed his scenes, because they asked him to come and loop his voice, but he refused. So they had another actor loop over him.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
But when he first gets onto Saturn III, he introduces himself and it's like, Captain, Major. Oh yeah, and this is my partner. She doesn't even have a title. This is my plaything. And again, she, the space clothes of the 80s are loose and, no bras exist in space, apparently. She does wear space lingerie.
Yes,
and
she
there
does.
is that scene where I did see 2 of her angels. Yeah. So
But,
Stowaway had 4 people. This one has 3 plus the robot. So again, you got Alex, who is Farrah Fawcett, Adam, who is Kirk Douglas, and then Benson, and then Hector the robot once he built him.
As soon as Keitel's character Benson sees Alex, Farrah Fawcett, he is obsessed with her, but not in a way that's well acted. He's just kind of blankly stares at her all the time.
Yeah, the delivery, and I don't know if it's intentional that he's very robotic or very lax emotion.
But he says to her in a very businesslike fashion,
I want your body.
May I use you?
Right.
I think that's how he puts it.
That was my pickup line for the longest time. May I use you?
You're very beautiful. May I use
thank you.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do.
As if it's a given, that she is there just for the enjoyment of the men.
Well, he gets mad. He gets mad that, wait, he has you all to himself. That's not the Earth way.
Yeah.
But you find out she's never been on Earth. But in 20 plus years, suddenly we're swingers. The whole planet is just swinging.
Just the fact that she's been sheltered. It's almost like she's a kept woman by this Kirk Douglas character.
Well,
of
you
Adam.
said that he's a little concerned about his age and insecure about it. So sure, he's got this girl all to himself. She doesn't know another man, apparently.
But we're talking about the robot. Hector plays into this around this time because that's why Benson is here to deliver Hector. So it's almost like an IKEA setup. He's got several boxes and he's got to assemble Hector from scratch, from all these parts.
Yeah, I like the fact that he had to do this. There's this great A-team montage building of the robot, and he's doing inventory. I'm like, you should have done that before you left the ship.
Yeah.
It's like, wait till I get, damn, I left his head on the couch.
And the brain, it's almost like 5 brains put together. It's not one brain
Yeah,
that he
it's
puts
a massive,
into Hector.
it is not like one human brain by any
And I'm willing to bet the label on that canister says Abby Normal.
I didn't even pick up on that. Damn you. But they're shadow locked. They are now blocked off. The whole point of this is that as soon as Keitel lands on this base, was it on an asteroid? Like he actually had to fly through the asteroid fields, the belt of Saturn,
The rings of Saturn.
and I'm like, there's got to be a safer way to get to this place.
That's actually that was probably one of the better special effects sequences where you're hearing
yes.
the rocks in the belt, like
like I
ping
said,
off
the
of the
opening,
ship.
the space, the costumes that they're wearing, and I will say, we'll talk about this on the back end. The spaceship itself, the set is unbelievable. This environment of Saturn III is immense and it is so well designed. There's neon lights everywhere, and because there's numerous shots of them just running through hallways, but it is very impressive. Yeah, no, and it's not complete. It's not like Alien where everything is dark and damp. It's brightly lit, even though it is dark, but it's got that neon pop to it. And like you said, I think the transfer helps a lot with that.
Yeah. So when Benson puts Hector together, there's an added facet to this robot's personality, which is Benson's. Benson has like an outlet in the back of his neck. It's like a jack plug that he puts in to port, so he can control Hector, directly via his brain. When Hector is plugged into Benson, like when Benson moves his arm, Hector moves his robot arm.
Yeah, real steel.
We can come up with an excuse to bring that up every single show, right?
Yes.
But unfortunately, Hector also inherits Benson's personality, and Hector also has access to Benson's memories. So suddenly we learn that Benson, and we knew this because we saw him murder Captain James early on, that Benson is unstable. And he has been, his psych evaluation has listed him as unstable. So maybe that's why Benson was so covert in the beginning. Maybe they weren't going to allow him to go to Saturn III because of his unstable nature, but he went anyway. And that's why he had to steal James's ship.
But they can't get there, though. I was saying before, they're shadow locked. So for 22 days, they are minus communication with anybody beyond their station.
Because of an eclipse, right?
Yeah. Would you think that if you're going to build a station there, that you would just put a satellite on either end to bounce that signal around? But whatever. Yeah, improper thought leakage, he says to him at one point. He says, what have I done wrong? And he's like, murderer, killer. It's like,
but the funny thing is that the robot hates him for it, yet he's inherited these feelings himself.
Right, he gives him grief and then immediately goes and kills the dog.
And he's also inherited his lust for Alex.
Which is just, this guy wants into her pants so bad. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. He's watching the video feeds of them in her bedroom. And the poor dog, you knew that dog was not going to last. At one point when Benson first arrives, she's like, oh, you've never had a dog before? He goes, I've had a couple. And he goes, what, they never had names? He goes, no, we just ate them. But yeah, I guess the dog was pooping in a hydroponic garden. Is that where he goes? Maybe that's what fertilized it. I don't know. There's a scene where she gets a splinter in her eye and he uses Hector to pull it out. And I think they use this in the trailer that makes it look like he's torturing her because he's holding her down and she's screaming. Yeah. And you got these little pincher things coming out of Hector's fingers. And
then suddenly he gets it. Oh, that's better. And then, then the scene's over. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right, go put some pants on now.
Because I think that's on the cover of one of the VHS things as well, as her eye being held open as the pinchers are coming towards it.
So she's a researcher, but doesn't wear safety goggles. Got it.
Or as we mentioned, a brassiere.
Yeah. So then Hector goes on some killing spree with the dog, and then they're chasing him, and I don't know what's going on. But there's an excruciating rebuild scene. They destroy him. I thought that he was playing them.
And Benson realizes the threat that Hector holds, not only to Alex and Kirk Douglas's character, Adam, but to him as well. Yeah. So Benson agrees to dismantle Hector, but it doesn't take. It does not take, because Hector, what does he jack into the other computers in the ship and gets them to rebuild him?
Basically gets to rebuild him, yeah. And it's excruciating rebuild. Like, we got this beautiful montage of him building it, and then we have to sit through another rebuild as a robot reassembles him. So, but at the meantime, you cut back to Alex and Adam, and they're, Adam's like losing his mind over this, and Alex is like, oh, don't worry, in a week or two we'll forget all about it. I'm like, what? Your dog is dead. Your lab is destroyed. Hey, remember that time that guy came here with a killer robot? Wasn't that funny? We'll forget about it. Come on. Your entire relationship is now in question.
Hector reassembles himself and kills Benson, kills Harvey Keitel's character.
Not before unhanding him.
Unhanding him. Yeah. Cuts off his hand and drags his body away. Now, a little bit later, you assume that he's dead, right? Because you do see him cut off his hand and and drag his bleeding body away. Yeah. A few scenes later, Harvey Keitel is speaking to them over one of the monitors. Like, oh, he's not dead. Yeah. And then it turns out that Hector has beheaded Harvey Keitel and put his head on his own body.
That was a disturbing scene.
Yeah.
But it was only that one scene, because then when you see Hector again later, he has removed it. But he's now able to mimic all their voices. because there's a running thing where Benson's trying to get Hector to talk. He'll communicate via computer, but he hasn't found a speaking voice yet. But now he's able to mimic every one of them.
So the movie just drags from this point on because
there's a lot of jump scares in the hallway.
The pacing is wrong. The pacing is wrong because you start up this end game of Hector stalking Adam and Alex, but then it screeches to a halt after they get knocked out, and then they wake up again, and there's another climax that you have to sit through. There's like a pool of liquid nitrogen under their living room that they have to knock the floor out.
So they set this elaborate trap.
And it's almost like putting a blanket over a hole in the floor, right? And hoping that Hector is going to walk through it. Yeah. And he sees right through, and he falls in anyway, but it doesn't hurt him. He survives the fall into the liquid nitrogen. Yeah. So after Hector kind of wins the first battle, he knocks the two of them out, Adam and Alex. They wake up, and he wakes up with one of these jacks in the back of his neck, just like Keitel had.
Yeah, I guess. Did he take the one out of the back of Benson's head and stick it into Adam? Because otherwise you're just going to have a spare port laying around?
Fast forward to the end. Adam sacrifices himself. He has a grenade or an explosive
Not before he changes his jacket. Like, why would you?
Right. Not only does he knock Hector for a second time into the liquid nitrogen,
he goes with him.
He goes with him and detonates this explosive.
And this explosion, it lasts 10 minutes.
It does. In slow motion.
Slow motion. And every piece of Hector
is lovingly detailed on screen, flying in slow motion into the air.
Yes, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful explosion. No parts of Adam, though.
No, they don't mix and mingle. So now Alex is free.
Well, she's stuck there.
But no, she's not, because the last
Thunderbird
scene,
saved her. That's right. The Thunderbird saved her.
And even there, the guys that come, have you seen this Alex? I wonder how she's doing out here. Even they're lecherous.
And that hair she has, she just ushered us right into the 80s with that hair.
It's a hopeful ending, you think.
Yeah, she's
for Alex, because she's on her way back to Earth, but the music is really, really foreboding. So that's what made me think, does she have Hector?
That would have been a nice reveal. That would have been a nice reveal if she had a port in the back of her head.
Yeah.
But to what end? Who knows?
I'm like, why is the music so terrifying as she's approaching Earth? It should be like victorious or happy.
All right. Well, we were told Earth is a cesspool.
This is true. Yeah.
She's going to get there and be like,
but she's got to see it for herself, though.
Yeah. There's Wally. He'll be down there building out blocks. I'm glad I finally got to see this. I can't believe it's been this long, but
I know.
Do I need to watch it again? Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah.
But knowing that it's on Prime.
Now, many references were made to Hector of Troy, but I can't see how the robot being named Hector ties in
in any way
to the heroic Hector of Troy.
Right. There was some black hole vibes with Maximilian, just evil robot for whatever. I don't know.
And Hector himself, as you said, just the image of this thing is pretty scary, but like the clunkiness of it is not a fast moving thing. So it doesn't seem, unless it's right on top of you, it's not that threatening. So it's like, it seems fairly easy to get away from.
Yeah.
And fairly easy to knock over as well.
Right.
But the design of it is pretty iconic. So some interesting facts about Saturn III. They approached both Sean Connery and Michael Caine to play Kirk Douglas's part. Both turned it down. Michael Caine was holding out for Jaws the Revenge, apparently.
It was right around the corner.
Yeah. It cost $10 million to make.
That's it? That all went to the robot.
It made $9 million at the box office. But they made some money back. The producers sold the rights to NBC for $4 million. And apparently, NBC broadcast this in 1984. And, as many movies that were shown on TV, it had extra scenes that were cut from the theatrical version to pad out the runtime. And I'm just glad. It seemed like, I think they added like a half an hour of scenes back that were just dialogue based. Like, imagine how boring it would have been to watch this on NBC with
and
even
they
more
would have gotten rid of
exposition.
the guy blowing up at the beginning and that hand cut off, I would assume.
Yeah, but I would assume maybe, hopefully, they would have whatever scenes that they cut out to make this thing move faster in the theater, maybe fleshed out the story of what was actually going on.
Well, it's
here.
interesting you say that because we were talking off air before going on that I stumbled across this poster of Farrah Fawcett's character in very Barbara Ella-esque plastic cheesy sci-fi attire, and she was on, I don't know if it was Johnny Carson or whatever, but she did say that this is not the movie she signed up for, that there is another version out there that is vastly different from what we see on screen. So I don't know what was left on the cutting room floor.
It started out its life as a movie being directed by John Barry, not the composer, John Barry, but a production designer.
Well, he cut his teeth, set design with the Star Wars and Superman.
Yes.
But it became very apparent that he was in over his head when it came to filming.
And Stanley Donen was a producer at this point. He was involved. So that's why he was there. So he stepped in. And I was reading that some of the problem was that John Barry and Kirk Douglas had their issues between each other.
Yeah.
So John Barry couldn't handle it as director, and then Donen stepped in. So maybe that's where, this was lost in translation, what Farrah Fawcett was talking about.
Yeah, but Barry, goes back to I go back to the set design. It is so impressive, even though you do get repetitive hallways and there's that scene where they're running and it's just endless doorways closing behind them. I'm like, this is like Get Smart Gone Mad.
Yeah.
It's just door after door closing. But unfortunately, John Barry went on to work on The Empire Strikes Back, and he collapsed on set and died of meningitis. Loss of incredible talent.
One of the scenes cut from both the theatrical version and, of course, the TV version was the robot Hector dismembering Benson's body. That was cut.
They opted not to leave it to the imagination.
Yes.
Huh?
Roger Ebert, in his review, said that this contained a shockingly low level of intelligence.
Roger Ebert. It did take 20 animators and $1 million to actually operate Hector.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just seemed to me to be a guy in a suit.
It did seem to be that after a while, but yeah, it was designed. The designs of the robot were based on a Da Vinci sketch, which I find incredibly interesting.
Really?
But I did not research enough to actually come across this sketch. I got nothing else to add on this one.
Yeah, and again, first viewing for me, first viewing for you. I think for the most part, pop culture history has forgotten this. I certainly had until
it's got a cult status to a certain degree, but every movie we talk about, there's somebody out there who champions it,
who loves it beyond reason.
And again, like I said, I was completely on board with the 80s cheese up front. If it's on Tubi, you got to know what you're getting into.
But yes, there is good naked and there's bad naked. And
yes.
Kirk Douglas crouching naked over, Harvey Keitel.
Choking him
is not
That's
good.
That's an autoerotic asphyxiation right there. There's some serious issues.
Buckets. I'm gonna just give it a shade better than Stowaway. I'm gonna go
2 on Stowaway.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I did 2 on Stowaway. I'm gonna go 2 1/4 for Saturn 3.
I'm gonna go 3.
3.
I'm gonna go 3. I enjoyed it.
Are you a Saturn 3 champion?
There's something about it. Minus, don't even count in.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think that
there is absolutely something about it. It is a time capsule. It was something that I think, as a kid, I purposely shied away from because that robot is so disturbing. It hit my happy spot. I was fine.
Good. I'm glad.
A nice little Saturday afternoon movie, and there you go.
So, do we have something similar to look forward to next week?
I'm hoping that we're going to step up our game a little bit.
Yeah, week. I think we will. I think we have no choice but to go up.
We can't. We can only go up. What are we doing? We are actually doing a Netflix original, The Mitchells versus the Machines, which is getting really good buzz. And as we talked at the top of the show, created by the same Sony studio that developed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Excellent. I can't wait to see it.
Robot on robot action, because we're going to double that up with Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yep, Gwyneth Paltrow. Haven't seen this since it was released. So
I do own this. I
do? Okay.
absolutely. Well, do I tip my hand now? I came out of the theater elated after.
Did you
watching
really?
this.
Yeah.
Oh, I was tickled pink.
So now those that would like to watch along with us, if you have both Netflix and Amazon Prime, you'll be able to see them both because it is a Prime offering.
Yeah, that's next week's show.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
And Jeff,
Taking your time.
until next week.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
I said lunch, not launch.
Hey, has anybody seen Bob?